Excellent. So this is from Goy Gollum. So this is going to be a real red pill right here that we need. Chud analysis. And it says speed this video up a little bit. All right, I'm getting it sped up a little bit.
The second Chud I will be discussing today is Adachi from Persona 4. Adachi represents the resentful Chud. What happens when someone wastes their life and accomplishes nothing, and it gets pushed down by bureaucratic bullshit? You have Adachi. Now, how did Adachi end up like this? How did Adachi end up being this resentful, hateful Chud that wants to watch the world burn? It's revealed in Adachi's backstory that he worked hard up the corporate ladder. He spent most of his time studying at school. He rejected relationships with others. He spent all of his time wage cut maxing. And so when he did this, he completely socially isolated himself from others. And what that did to Adachi is it started to build this kind of resentment where he looked at others and saw their success and was jealous. And so when he finally gets into detective school and graduates, gets sent to the boonies because of a small mistake. He's sent to the boonies in Inaba, and his career is basically done in his mind. And he feels that the reason he reached this point was that he had no talent. This is his kind of ideology that he sees in the world, that people without talent are worthless. And so because of his no talent, he ended up in this terrible position. And so Adachi falls into this despair. Despite Adachi falling into despair, he presents himself outward as a goofy guy who makes self-deprecating jokes. But all of this is a mask for his immense despair and his immense feeling of worthlessness. And what this does to Adachi is he begins to resent the normie, resent the outgroup. Adachi is rather watching life happen rather than living it, like he was watching a movie. And so
I'm really appreciative of this right here, actually, because this reminds me a lot of that video I made many years ago called Making a Blackpiller. And it's very similar to what I recall expressing in that video, where you have somebody who, they're starting from a blank slate. They're starting from a... not necessarily this point of grievance, but the grievances are built. We step into this room with that blank slate. We're ready to give everything. We're ready to be whatever this world is asking for us to be. But the grievances are then built because these other people, we're coming in with the blank slate, but they begin to pass that judgment, which then excludes us, Walter said, I've seen many successful guys get a trophy wife and ruin their lives. I mean, exactly. It's so true. I get it, because, and I see this with boomers a lot. They can't handle loneliness. They had these years, these decades where they had these tight knit communities. Everybody knew each other. Doesn't exist anymore. They're out here. They got to pick off a Hinge or OkCupid, whatever these senior citizen women get plugged into that their great granddaughters are plugging them into. They're getting, or if they're doing the trophy wife thing, they're looking up hot bitches and just throwing money at them for whatever, getting themselves screwed over. Because these are some conniving, hungry hyenas or what out here these days looking for these old men with this money. Because like I said, the economy, they're saying it's worse than the Great Depression now. Officially 2026, the economy, we're losing hundreds of thousands of jobs a month. The only thing that's left is for Indians to wipe your ass if you're 90 years old in the nursing home. It's the only job that's left in the entire world. Unless you're reacting to anime discourse on kick.com/youtube.com. Thank you, everybody, for smashing the like button. Thank you for the support. Whew. It's good, tubes. It's good. They said I was crazy for, dedicating 10 years of my life to going live and watching YouTube videos with an audience. Know who's the crazy one now? That's right. Figured out, dude.
happens to Adachi is that this develops, this creates his resentment, and there's only a few things really stopping Adachi from falling over the edge, falling into this madness, basically, that happens later on in the story of Persona 4, which leads him to murdering people, is that Adachi has Dojima, who is his boss, that Adachi respects immensely, because Dojima is kind of everything Adachi wants to be. He's a good detective, he cares about people, and he wants to find truth and justice in the world, and Adachi respects. And Dojima shows Adachi a lot of, gives Adachi, despite being a hard ass on Adachi, he still praises Adachi and respects him. And so Adachi has immense respect for Dojima, and with his relationship with Dojima has been able to form a bond with him. You can see this in the story where he drinks with Dojima, they come home from a bar, he tutors Nanako-chan, Dojima's daughter. And so what this does for Adachi is that it gives him something to cling on to this world, because besides Dojima and his job, Adachi would basically have nothing. But despite his relationship with Dojima, Adachi has a shutout where he abuses his power. What causes Adachi to go over the deep end is that he gets drunk on his power, and one day he assaults a woman and attempts to push her against the TV, and that causes that woman to fall inside the TV. And so what this does to Adachi, and it does to his head, now he lives in this resentment, feels like he has no purpose in life, and now he's given this grand power that finally he feels like he has control over his life. And this is unironically what happens to a lot of the most evil dictators in history, or most just evil people, is they gain this power, miraculous power, either either through conniving or maybe by blood or nepotism, and they gain this power, and now they've worthlessness, and they can abuse others and use this power to finally take control in of their life. And this is what happens with Dachi, is now he continues to do these murders because in his own mind he justifies that he's bored and there's nothing going on in his life, and he falls in this nihilism, and so it's interesting to him to do this, and so he continues to put people in the TV. Adachi becomes drunk on this power, and what's funny to me is Adachi, despite seeing himself worthless, comes up with a quite intelligent plan to make sure he never gets caught, which is to use a proxy in order to do it. So what this leads to eventually is that Adachi becomes reckless, and you and his friends discover the plot behind Adachi. What happens with Adachi is that this is kind of the first crack in his head, is that he's put.
Is that typical? Somebody who feels that their life is worthless, they're very self-destructive, they have no, care for their own well-being, but yet they still want to keep getting away with whatever pain they're inflicting on others, even if it could come back to them and harm them by doing it? Are we thinking that's something interesting to think about? And I think, to be honest, I think it is real, based on somebody saying that this game is quote-unquote troon-coded. For those people, they're going to the hockey rinks, they're going to the schools, they're doing what they do. I've seen it on TV. I think it's probably real.
His relationship with Dojima is put on the line, and Adachi can't really accept this. Once he's caught, he runs away into the TV in order to enact his grand plan, which is to destroy reality. I'll play a clip here.
Let's be honest. There's nothing great about the real world, is there? It's just dull and annoying as hell. No one accepts that's the way things are. They're just stuck with it because they can't deny it either. Those who actually succeed in life, they just happen to be born with a magic ticket called talent.
Okay, wait a second. Truk alert. That's right. They're born Chad. Ooh, it's tough. It's not optically compelling to say, but maybe if you're born 4 feet tall or you're born 7 feet tall, one of those people might have an advantage. It is what it is. Why we lag it? Don't lag on me now.
If you don't have it, you can either accept or deny that fact until you die. That's your only choice. Once you realize that, all you have left in life is despair. The ultimate game over. Wouldn't it be better if that kind of reality was wiped away?
That's his plan, is to destroy all reality, that he wants to see it wiped away because his life is meaningless and that all the struggles of humanity are meaningless. He's fallen into this nihilistic hell. What happens is that you and his friends are like, you're a fucking loser, Adachi. Why do you want to do this? And Adachi's only rebuttal is that it's fun, it's entertaining. So when you and his friends finally defeat Adachi, they sober him up. Adachi finally gets sobered up in his defeat. And that maybe if his life was a bit different, that it wouldn't have ended up this way. That Adachi's life wouldn't, if he didn't push people away and stew in his resentment for his whole life. And maybe he was a bit autistic, but he never really tried to be friends with anybody. Maybe if Adachi's choices had gone differently, he wouldn't have ended up this way. And that's what causes that kind of thinking of Adachi. He gets humbled. He realizes what he's done is wrong. And he decides he accepts the responsibility for his actions and goes to prison. What I find interesting about Adachi is once he accepts responsibility for his actions and his own faults, rather than kind of stew in his own self-hatred, is that he's able to improve himself, and he's rewarded at the end of the game. He knows that he's going to be in prison, and he accepts responsibility.
His life is better because he goes to prison for life. Yeah, he realized that the Blackpill was real, but he just spurred out. They found out he wasn't even Chad, and they put him in prison for life, but it was lay good or something. No!
What surprises Adachi is that Dojima, the person who he fucked over and it almost killed his daughter, shows up to talk to Adachi in prison and continue to be friends with him. And that's what makes Adachi feel so embarrassed and puts a smile on his face, is that Adachi's, what his character comes down to, is that Adachi wants to be valued in this world. He wants to be respected. What's so valuable about Dojima's connection to Adachi is that he never gave up on it. And so that's kind of the end of Adachi's character arc, is him realizing that the connections with people, and despite his life being shit, maybe he can try to make something out of it. And I think this is kind of what I love. This is what I love about Adachi and his character, is that that's his arc, is that he falls into this resentment and hate, and he lashes out on others when the normie did nothing wrong. Nor did Dojima do anything wrong.
Listen, he could have been a fucking free thinker. Oh, my lay normie, he didn't do anything lay wrong. He was just lay following orders. He just said we have to stop the spread, so he had to shank you to death 50 times for not wearing a mask inside of this 300 square foot field, 300 square mile field, whatever. He was just doing. He just said he's can't be held responsible, dude. Figure it out, dude.
Wrong to Adachi, and yet Adachi wants to watch the world burn. And I think this is kind of goes against the billions must die chud, this chud that wants to see the world burn, is that even if the world burned, would you be the hero that would rebuild it? No. That's what Adachi doesn't want to rebuild the world with his power and remake it to be better. No, he just wants to see it to be destroyed. That's what
sounds like a complete hero who's right about everything.